Our next guest live in studio tonight in Anaheim is Dr. Sandra Morgan. I introduced her briefly at the top of the show. I thought I wanted her to participate with Melinda Harrison, who just left us. But Melinda was all talk, and I didn't let Sandra get a word in edgewise, so the second half of the show is totally devoted to her. We're switching gears, ladies and gentlemen, big time, which we often do on my Sunday night show because we talk about everything, and it's not always jointed, but it's always important. And Dr. Sandra Morgan is a nationally, actually internationally known expert in the field of human trafficking. If you happen to be a podcast person and you listen to various podcasts and you listen to serious ones, she has a very popular, and popular is probably the wrong word, a very important podcast which airs, and it is called End Human Trafficking. And apparently it is listened to by people in some 109 countries around the world. Dr. Morgan has traveled to many of these countries to work with trafficking victims and with governments to try and stem the tide. She is also the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice at Vanguard University, and she is a speaker with international credits, so much so that in the fall of last year, she was appointed to a public-private partnership advisory council to end human trafficking under President Trump and the White House. Sandra joins me now.
Thank you so much for inviting me back, Bruce. I always enjoy our conversations.
Well, me too, because you know what? You're like a real person. You're a deep person. You're a thinker person. And there's so many people out there that are grabbing the attention of the media that really don't have a great thought in their head, that are robbing our time. And you're a precious person to have our time.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of great people that want to advocate for the victims of human trafficking. And what we say on the Ending Human Trafficking podcast is study the issues, be a voice, make a difference. And we're dedicated to educating our community so they understand the issues before they start talking about it.
Well, most of the people listening to this radio station have zero idea that there is an issue in Orange County. Not all, but most. Why is that?
Well, I think that Orange County actually stands pretty high nationally on visibility about human trafficking when you compare it to others, because we actually started the fledgling pieces of a task force back in 2004. And this year is the 20th anniversary of the passage of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. So we were pretty early adopters. We've served more than 1,000 victims. We have more than 300 convictions of traffickers. And right now, in the COVID-19 crisis, providing for our survivors and continuing outreach to do prevention is a big challenge.
It must be a big challenge. So what are the specific things that you're doing?
Well, specifically as part of the public-private partnership, which was a bipartisan legislation. And I think one of the things that is super important for me as a community member is for people to leave their politics at the door. This is a human rights issue when someone, because of someone else's greed, is used for the purpose of forced labor, coerced labor, fraudulent labor. People come to America with a dream, and then they find out that they're actually trapped. They're not getting paid. They owe a debt that will never go away. Or someone is recruited thinking they're going to be in a normal job, and they end up being sold for commercial sex. So it's about greed and making money.
Is there any way to determine the difference between those two subjects that you just described? And how would someone coming from another country, an impoverished country, and what about like American kids that don't know.
Oh my goodness, I'm
don't
so
know
glad you
what
said
they're
that.
doing.
72% of our victims in the last year's report were American citizens. And so when I'm connecting this to the COVID-19 crisis, if you think about the vulnerability that makes someone take a risk of going someplace else, meeting someone they met online so that they can get a job, now how desperate are they going to be? It's going to amplify their vulnerability.
Am I being too, judgmental in saying that a lot of this 72% of American kids are coming from places where opportunity is not there, and so they're attracted to the big lights of the big city? Is that fair?
I can let you say that a little bit, but right now I've been watching trending news articles, and there's a real concern that family violence is going to escalate during the forced shelter in place. So you can imagine that a young person who is experiencing that kind of abuse at home has the sense that there is no hope, and
They've got to get out.
Yeah, their only chance is to leave. And then they don't have any resources, and somebody says, hey, you can stay at my apartment. And then they find out that to pay for that, they have to be sold for sex. And the real key about human trafficking is that it is for a commercial sex act. That means somebody has designed a business plan so that they can make a profit. It's based on greed.
So based on that statement, there could be kids in Orange County that are trying to escape whatever pressure comes in their family. And we're not talking about foreign countries.
No, we're not. We are not. We are talking about our own kids.
How are the police involved in this, or the authorities? How do you interact with them?
We have a great task force right here in Orange County. It's led by Anaheim Police Department. Training for law enforcement is a part of the academy here. So lots of people are on board. We also partner with federal agencies, the Homeland Security and FBI and Department of Labor. So the resources to investigate are great. One of the things that really attracted me to saying yes to the White House invitation to be on the Public-Private Partnership Advisory Council. That is a tongue twister, and I dare you to say it 3 times fast. No, don't do that. But the thing that attracted me is that our task, our mandate, legislated mandate, is prevention and survivor care. So we've directed literally millions of dollars to investigate, to prosecute, to put the bad guys away. Now we want to turn our attention more to going upstream and finding out why are they victims and what could we have done to protect them from becoming victims. One of the things that we just talked about is identifying if they are victims of family violence. And our new Surgeon General for the state of California has, Nadine Burke-Harris, has made the ACEs quiz a part of our mandated child welfare program. So
you have to explain that. What's the ACEs quiz?
Adverse childhood experiences, the kind of thing that would make a child 14, 15 years old feel hopeless, and they would leave the safety of a bed and a table, even though it's not a great place, to look for something better.
Ratio of boys to girls.
You know, there isn't a lot of research out there. I did some preliminary research when I was the task force administrator, and in subsequent studies, it's trending around 16 to 18% that we see, but it's much harder to find the boys. It's more clandestine, And it's not macho to admit that you're being trafficked, but my personal experience is that when I was a night nurse in a pediatric unit, my very first commercially sexually exploited child was a 14-year-old boy being sold for his mother and stepfather's drugs.
It's so horrible. I don't even know what to say. What came of that experience? Is this what propelled you to get into this?
I think that has, once I had language around how to deal with that, then that has been a foundation for understanding how important it is for us to go back upstream, to identify families where there's risk for children to run away. Running away is a huge risk factor for commercial sexual exploitation of children.
The drug thing that you just brought up, that's got to be a big factor.
At the first time that I actually listened to a lecture from a child psychologist here in Orange County mentioning that substance abuse disorder was a risk factor for child abuse and that parents had sold their children, I thought, well, I always thought that little boy I admitted at 2 a.m. was rare. Now, unfortunately, I've been working in this field for 20 years, and it is not rare. It happens over and over and over again. So my word to people listening is, if you know a child who is in a situation with a family member with substance abuse disorder, number one, get help for the child to make sure they're safe and secure, and secondly, get help for the person with the substance abuse disorder.
It's a tall order, Sandra Morgan, a very tall order.
It's prevention.
But it's
hard.
But is it getting better? I mean, you're very optimistic and you're very proactive, but is it getting better? Is this a human condition that has existed through the ages that's never going to go away, or can we really stop it?
I think we can stop it because we have to follow the people who have gone before us. We stand on their shoulders, even thinking back to William Wilberforce and ending transatlantic slave trade. He used principles of connecting people, of partnering with the government and the private sector as important actors. And that's what our public-private partnership is really designed to do, to get more. So people who think and talk about, well, government shouldn't be involved in this. Well, they are involved. We have laws. But how do we get more private sector people involved at the decision-making level? So what we're doing as an advisory council, we're looking at the President's Interagency Task Force on Human Trafficking that was mandated when they passed the first human trafficking law in 2000. And now we're going to review what they're doing and give our nonprofit private sector insights on what we've learned, and hopefully drive a stronger approach to prevention and to better survivor care.
We have to take a break, Sandra, but here's my question before the break. I mistakenly, at the top of our time together, said most of Orange County wasn't too smart about this, and you corrected me. So my question is, through your organization and through this task force, how do you get more people involved, more people to really care about it? Because I think a lot of people may know about it, but they still might be afraid of the subject. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
Angels Radio,
AM 830.
Asking for help in life takes bravery. Women addicted to alcohol and drugs know this very well. Most suffer silently while their lives fall apart, their children and their families in crisis. For more than 40 years in Southern California, New Directions for Women has helped addicted women recover in a nationally recognized treatment facility in Costa Mesa. Their doors are wide open. It just takes the first step. Call New Directions for Women. The number is 888-786-0509. Again, 888-786-0509. You can also visit them at www.newdirectionsforwomen.org. New Directions for Women. They know recovery.
Individual rates, coverage offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions.
If you run a small business, saving up to 30% on your workers' comp insurance is a big deal. That's why you need to check your rate at piinsurance.com. Pi Insurance makes workers' comp a no-brainer with an easy online experience and outstanding service. At Pi, we protect your business and your employees and could save you up to 30%. Check out your rate online today and see how much you can save at piinsurance.com. That's pieinsurance.com.
If the woman you love, your mother, wife, daughter, sister, partner, or friend, is on a downward spiral from substance abuse and doesn't know where to turn, let us help. New Directions for Women, a Costa Mesa-based addiction treatment facility, has the answer. Since 1977, we have helped over 5,000 women change their lives, returning them to sober, healthy living, restoring love, hope, and dignity to them and their families. Don't wait another day. The woman you love needs your help now. Call us at 888-786-0509 or visit us at www.newdirectionsforwomen.org. Again, 888-786-0509. New Directions for Women. We know recovery.
To talk to Bruce Cook, pick up the phone and dial 714-2830-830.
And we're back. Angels Radio, AM 830 KLAA. I'm Bruce Cook, and this is Bruce Cook Live Sunday Night, which I guess makes sense. We're talking with Dr. Sandra Morgan. We're talking about human trafficking here in Orange County, around the country, around the world. And we've had some really interesting talk, if you're just joining us, about the effects of the COVID-19 virus and the drama that can exist in struggling families that can create kids to run away from home to escape the misery and end up in trouble. Before the break, I asked Dr. Morgan to answer a tough question, and that is, while her task force and the efforts are very strong here in Orange County, are most people still afraid to face the issue? Dr. Morgan?
Well, the answer to that is really found in education. When people understand something, they're not as afraid of it. And so my strategy has been to provide levels of education for everybody. You mentioned at the top of the hour the Ending Human Trafficking podcast. Anybody can listen to that. 30 minutes, bite-sized pieces to learn and study the issues. We also offer an anti-human trafficking certificate. We partner with Orange County Department of Education, with Child Welfare, with Anaheim PD, with our Waymakers, with lots of our community leaders right here in Orange County and beyond. And we do that so that everybody can figure out where they fit. So one of the most exciting opportunities for me was when I began to understand that some of my colleagues who had the most frontline seats in addressing human trafficking didn't have any understanding about human trafficking. So one of my friends said, "Can I do your anti-human trafficking certificate?" It's like, great. And so
What is that?
The anti-human trafficking certificate is designed for people who are already working in some field, but they don't have a background on human trafficking. So, for instance, my colleague was in prevention in Department of Education. So she did 4 online classes, understood the basics, figured out some of the legal aspects as well as best practices, and then she was ready to start leading her department in building anti-human trafficking efforts. So the certificate is all online. And you can find information on our website, gcwj.org.
Give that website again.
GCWJ, that's Global Center for Women and Justice, gcwj.org. You
also have had some major public support here in Anaheim, specifically here at the stadium. Share that with us.
Well, I was really delighted when Albert and Dee Dee Pujols began the Strikeout Slavery program to address demand specifically for commercial sexual exploitation for sex trafficking. So I think you were there at our Priceless event when Dee Dee and Albert came and spoke and really endorsed and helped us move forward in providing the kind of education tools that our community needs at a local level, a state level, and national.
There's no doubt that when a celebrity gets involved, the message gets out a lot quicker and a lot stronger. Can you share with us a little bit about why they chose to get behind this and do the strikeout and support the Priceless Luncheon? Where did the passion come from?
Well, I think when they began to see that they had a platform that would call particularly the demand side of commercial sexual exploitation to the table, that was a wake-up call for them. And in prevention, there's a lot of conversations about how do we prevent a child or an adult, a man or a woman taking a fraudulent job and then being tracked. But how do we actually start to change how people think? Who in Orange County would buy a child for sex?
Can you answer that question?
Well, no.
Obviously, somebody is buying it.
Exactly. And so they got behind this. And then as they got deeper into this, they began to understand labor trafficking exists right here in Orange County because we like cheap services and we don't want to pay very much, if at all. And so then this last season, they included labor trafficking survivors in the story education at a family event that addresses all levels of human trafficking.
Talk about the Priceless event. It's not until September, but let's have a few words about it. And what do you do with the money?
Oh, the money goes to support our Ending Human Trafficking podcast, our Live to Free teams that go out into the high schools, our Ensure Justice Conference, which we were really blessed we were able to get in just under the wire before we started canceling meetings. But Ensure Justice is an annual conference. We partnered with our Orange County Department of Education. And then Priceless also supports the development of new curriculum, doing community education, and providing internships for the next generation.
Let me ask you about curriculum and education. Are you teaching things in our public schools? Is that part of any kind of curriculum at this point?
Well, yes.
Or should it be, or can it be?
Well, actually, that's one of my pet peeves. Yes, we are, and it is state mandated twice. When you're in middle school and again in high school, you'll receive human trafficking training for a week in a health course. But from a pediatric nurse perspective, I'm thinking about how many times did your mother tell you to wash your hands? How many times did your mother tell you to brush your teeth? And when we do prevention, we wash our hands to prevent getting a disease. We brush our teeth to prevent getting cavities. So I want to go to Sacramento and say to all the legislators there that twice, once in middle school and once in high school, is not enough. And if you think it is, here's a toothbrush, and you can brush your teeth this week and again in 2 years.
Well, it's a good point, but I'd like to bring up something even worse. Unfortunately today, and I really am horrified to say this, but there's a lot of mothers out there that aren't telling their kids to do much of anything. And that's why those middle school kids and high school kids really need this kind of instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't have that role model that's protecting them, where are they going to get it? And secondly, what do we do about any kind of backlash from parents who say you shouldn't be doing this. Like, there is backlash from parents who don't want sex education in schools anyway.
Wow, I think we need another show for that.
And we'll have one.
Yes, but let me just say that kids often are in situations that are way deeper. They need online training for how to keep themselves safe, and many kids don't have that at home. So you really hit a great subject for another
We
show.
will do that and tackle it. Do you think peer involvement would be helpful to this?
Actually, our Live to Free team, and you can find a podcast on that. Peer-to-peer youth-led empowerment is best practice for prevention. Telling kids what not to do, they roll their eyes at you and say, "Mom, you don't trust me," blah, blah, blah. So educating kids to educate kids, that is the key to prevention.
Final thoughts.
I can't sign off without telling people that the 888 number, if you see something that looks suspicious, call 888-3737-888. And if you want to learn more, the best place to start is at the endinghumantrafficking.org website. Download an ebook I did with a quick start guide to ending human trafficking.
Dr. Sandra Morgan, it's been an honor to have you on the show. We wish you a healthy and safe week ahead, as we do for all of our listeners here at Angels Radio. Be safe, stay home, take precautions, and come back again next Sunday at 6 o'clock for Bruce Cook Live Sunday night here on Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA. It's an honor to have you listen.